Imagine this. It's a Wednesday morning. You wake up without an alarm. You make breakfast, take the dog for a walk, and check your phone. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Your bills are paid. Your rent or mortgage is covered. And you haven't clocked into a job in years. That's not a fantasy. That's financial independence. And today I'm going to show you exactly how much you need invested to pull it off in Australia. Now, financial independence, or FI as it's known in the movement, doesn't mean you never do anything productive again. It means you have a choice. Work becomes optional. You might still consult, freelance, start a business, or do something creative. But you do it because you want to, not because you need the money. So what actually makes Australia special here? Two things: franking credits and superannuation. Most countries don't have either of these working in your favour. Franking credits mean Australian company dividends often carry a tax refund baked in, effectively boosting your after-tax yield by 30 to 40% compared to a raw dividend in the US or UK. And superannuation is the most tax-advantaged retirement vehicle on the planet. Money inside super is taxed at just 15% during accumulation and then 0% in retirement. If you use both of these tools correctly, you need significantly less money than someone in America chasing the same outcome. Let's talk about the number everyone wants to know. How much do you actually need? The standard framework used in the FI community globally is called the 4% rule. It comes from the Trinity study, a piece of research done in the 1990s that looked at historical market data and concluded that a retiree withdrawing 4% of their portfolio each year had a very high probability of never running out of money, even over 30 years. The math is simple. You take your annual spending, divide it by 0.04, and that gives you your FI number. But here's what most people get wrong. The 4% rule was designed around a US portfolio with a mix of stocks and bonds. In Australia, with franking credits and the ASX's historically strong dividend culture, many FI researchers argue a 4 to 4.5% withdrawal rate is actually conservative here, and that a well-structured Aussie portfolio can sustainably support 4 to 5% withdrawals over decades. For today's numbers, let's use 4% to stay conservative. So what does your actual lifestyle cost? Let's build this from the ground up. The ASFO retirement standard, which is the benchmark most Australian financial planners use, puts a comfortable single lifestyle at around $54,000 a year and a comfortable couple at around $77,000. That covers private health, a decent car, domestic travel, and eating out regularly. A more modest lifestyle runs closer to $35,000 for singles and $51,000 for couples. But if you're trying to never work again in your 30s or 40s rather than your 60s, ASFA's numbers aren't your ceiling, they're your starting point. You need to think about a longer time horizon, more years of inflation, and potentially a more active lifestyle than a traditional retiree. Let's run the actual numbers. If your lifestyle costs $40,000 a year, you need $1 million invested. At $60,000 a year, that's $1.5 million. At $80,000, you're looking at $2 million. And if you want a genuinely comfortable life with travel, flexibility, and zero financial stress, budgeting $100,000 a year means you need $2.5 million. That's your FI number at 4%. Now here's where Australia gives you an edge. Other countries don't. If you're 60 or older, your super can fund a huge chunk of that. The average Australian couple retiring today with a combined super balance of $600,000 to $800,000 plus the age pension can live an extremely comfortable life while drawing almost nothing from outside investments. But if you want to stop working at 40 or 45, you need to think in two buckets: a portfolio you can access now, outside super, and your super balance, which you can't touch until preservation age. This is why the Australian FI strategy almost always runs two portfolios simultaneously. Your outside super portfolio needs to fund your life from whenever you retire until around age 60. Your super then takes over from there, and it's been compounding tax efficiently the whole time you've been living off the other portfolio. The smartest Australians chasing FI are not choosing between super and outside super. They're maxing both. Let's talk about the investment engine that makes this work. The ASX 200 has returned roughly 9 to 10% per year on average over the last 30 years, including dividends and franking. After inflation, that's around 6 to 7% in real terms. That's your engine. You don't need to beat the market, you just need to capture it consistently. For most people, that means low-cost index ETFs. VAS gives you the ASX 300. VGS gives you global markets outside Australia. A simple split between those two, maybe 60 to 70% domestic for the franking credits and the rest international for diversification, has historically been enough to build serious wealth over 15 to 20 years. Now let's talk about the path to actually getting there. If you're starting from zero and you invest $2,000 a month into a diversified portfolio returning 9% per year, here's how long it takes. You hit $1 million in around 17 years, $1.5 million in about 21 years, and $2 million in roughly 24 years. Start at 25 and you're done by 50. Start at 30 and you finish by your mid-50s. Bump that monthly contribution to $3,000 and the timeline compresses dramatically. $1 million in 13 years, $1.5 million in 17, $2 million in 20. If you're a dual income household putting away $5,000 a month, you can hit $2 million in under 15 years from a standing start. The lever you control most is not market returns. It's your savings rate. Every dollar you don't spend today is a dollar that can compound for decades. The FI community has a saying, it's not about how much you earn, it's about how much you keep. Here's the piece most Australians don't think about until too late. Sequence of returns risk. If the market drops 30% in the first 2 years of your retirement and you're withdrawing at the same time, that combination can derail a portfolio that would otherwise have lasted 40 years. This is why a lot of Aussie FI chasers build a cash buffer, 12 to 24 months of living expenses sitting in a high-interest savings account, so that if markets tank, they're not forced to sell shares at the worst possible moment. You let the buffer absorb the drawdown while the portfolio recovers. There's also the question of the age pension. A lot of people building toward FI forget that if your portfolio is sized conservatively or you've drawn it down somewhat by your 60s, the age pension might cover a meaningful chunk of your expenses. A single person currently gets around $27,000 a year from the age pension. A couple gets around $41,000. That's not enough to live on alone, but layered on top of a modest investment portfolio, it changes the math significantly. Let me bring this back to something practical. The reason most Australians don't achieve financial independence isn't intelligence. It's not income, not really. It's the gap between intention and consistency. The person who invests $500 a month for 25 years will almost always end up wealthier than the person who means to invest $5,000 a month, but never quite starts because life always gets in the way. Start with what you have. Automate it. Increase it every time you get a raise. Don't touch it. That's the whole system. The market does the rest. So let's land the plane. How much do you need invested to never work again in Australia? At a 4% withdrawal rate, a single person needs between $875,000 and $135 million to cover a modest to comfortable lifestyle. A couple needs between $1,027 million and $1.9 million. If you want genuine lifestyle flexibility and a buffer for inflation, healthcare, and unexpected costs, target $2 million for a single and $2.5 to $3 million for a couple. Those numbers are achievable. Thousands of ordinary Australians are hitting them every year. Not because they had high salaries or lucky investments, but because they stayed consistent, and they let time do the work.
G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. Before we begin, make sure to hit that like button. Today we are looking at tax minimized strategies. Let's find out how to save some serious money.
To minimize tax on the path to financial independence. I'll see you there.